Hi, I'm Michael, and this is how art changed me. So the arts are a very important part of my life. Starting at a very young age, it was my escape. Growing up, I listened to a lot of musicals, and I danced in my room a lot of times, and it made me happy because I was this gay boy in Northeast Philadelphia who was so afraid of being found out to be gay, and who loved musical theater, in an all-boys school, Catholic school. But I could be in my little room, and I could perform, and I could be myself, find characters of whoever I want to be. I eventually got into the company Waves. You know, being on the road with a bunch of dancers and living with a bunch of dancers, it was just a wonderful experience. In my history with the arts and dance, you kind of have your ups and downs, you know, and I was getting to a point where I was in my 40s now, and I found myself not happy in my 40s, and I didn't see much more of a future in the arts, and I didn't know how to deal with that. My mindset was, well, your life is sort of over now at 40. My health took a turn also. When I moved here, a year later, I became HIV positive. I had suffered from, throughout my life, depression and anxiety, and I wasn't taking care of it. And I wasn't happy with where I was going in my career, and I was single again. I didn't know how to deal with it. So instead of dealing with it and talking about it, I was, starting to go in a destructive route. I was hooking up a lot, and on one of these hookups, somebody offered me to smoke something, which I didn't know what it was. So what it was, crystal meth. And I tried it for the first time, and then 6 months later, I was fully addicted. As my addiction got worse, and as my health got worse, my work just suffered. And I, slowly just wanted to leave that career altogether. Going on a path that was, in a way, to end my life, really trying to commit suicide, but without actually committing suicide. So I would stop taking my medicine for my HIV, and so of course, I had full-blown AIDS by the time, in 2015. And then I got admitted into the psych ward for 10 or 11 days. And that was difficult, but that was the beginning of the change for me. Throughout that whole journey into what I consider a very dark period of my life, the darkest I've ever experienced, I didn't want to see dance. I couldn't watch dance on TV. I couldn't watch a video of it. So when I started to get reintroduced to family and friends, I started to try to see a show here and there. I saw Color Purple, and I just bawled my eyes out. And then there was another show I went to. It was Broadway Inspirational Voices, which is a group of Broadway performers that do a lot of gospels, but they were doing a Broadway inspirational evening. I sat there, and there was a point of me that remembered a part of who I was before, and I didn't recognize that person for so long. And sitting there and listening to these amazing voices, I just kept thinking there was a chance I wasn't gonna be here, and I would miss this, and I would miss whatever shows are coming up and whatever else the arts has to offer, And I realized at that moment, I don't wanna miss these performances. I don't wanna miss the arts. It really reminded myself to remember who I was, that I need to trust life again. And in that process, I started on recovery, and then I relapse, and then I started on recovery, and eventually got me to my current sobriety of 4.5 years, which I never thought I could get to I never thought I could get to 60 days. The heaviness of the world, can be a lot, and especially in the times we're living in. So without the arts, it would be a really dark, terrible world to me. Yeah.